Hey, for all the authors that are listening out there, I wanted to share with you this great email that we received here at the Reading with Your Kids podcast from Dr. Linda Mubarak. She is a past guest and the author of Maxine's New Job. Here's the email. Dear Fatima and Jed, good news! Maxine's New Job has been nominated to receive the prestigious Henri Award at the 2018 Christian Literacy Awards for Outstanding Literacy Work in the Children's Book Division. I sincerely believe your certifying Maxine as a great read helped bring increased social media attention to the book. Thank you for the exposure and the great marketing. We are so happy for Dr. Linda Mubarak that her book, Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read, Maxine's New Job, received this prestigious recognition. We would love to help your book receive that same kind of recognition. If you are interested in having your book considered for our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program, please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can click on the contact button, send us a note, and we'll send all the information back to you, or you can go right to our Certified Great Read page on our website. It's fun, it's easy, and it is really an effective way to let the world know that your book stands out above all the rest. The Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program.
Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, and iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Some people, when they hear Reading with Your Kids, they think, yeah, reading with your little kids on the couch. But reading with your teens and tweens is so very important. And Leslea Wahl is here to share some great books that we can enjoy with our older kids. Leslea, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. It's always so much fun to visit with you.
I'm really excited. Leslea is an acclaimed author of Catholic faith-based middle grade and YA novels, and every month or so she comes back on to share with us some of her recommendations. Great books that we can read with our tweens and our teens, either together reading out loud or more likely co-reading. Leslea, just what do you see as the value? Because I know a lot of people, the idea of reading along with their teens and their tweens, it seems crazy. It's like, you don't do that. The kids can read by themselves, but there's a real value to it. What value do you see?
Well, I think it's a fabulous way to, one, connect with your kids and have something to, that's how book clubs are. You discuss something and you get some great discussions. And especially with teens, it's a fabulous way to bring up some topics and issues that otherwise can be really difficult to bring up on your own. But through a character or a storyline, it's a lot easier to have a discussion about it. And then you can kind of bring up other things or your suggestions for them if they ever have to deal with such a situation. So it's a really neat way to connect with your teens.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great way to kind of find out what's going on in your teens' heads, because they're not sharing. Teens are involved even during the quarantine time when they're at home with us for 3 months, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're in their rooms, they're on their devices, they're having all these relationships with folks, and we don't know what's going on. They're not necessarily coming out and sharing things with us. This is a way to kind of get a look inside, and when they're a little bit more relaxed and find out what's going on, what might be exciting them, what might be bothering them and concerning them.
Absolutely. They're just much more willing to open up when you're discussing someone else, through a character or whatever. And, I think we've had my own family, we've had some wonderful discussions around books and different topics, instead of trying to ask them specifically what's happening in your life. If you're able to do it in a different way, through stories or news articles or whatever, you actually find out a lot. They're able to share more about what they're doing or what their friends have going on or just how they feel about things.
Yeah.
So keeping those lines of communication open with the teens is very important.
Yeah. And I think it's especially valuable right now because there are so many things going on. There's lots of protests around the country. There are, of course, the pandemic is still with us. So there's I don't know what I'd be feeling. When I was a teen, there were protests over the Vietnam War, but we weren't dealing with a pandemic on top of that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. Yeah. And even as adults, sometimes we don't know how to feel about it all. So it's amazing. I'm sure teens really have that because they struggle with the world views anyway. And then to have all these extra things, it's a very confusing time.
Yeah. Well, one thing we're not confused about is that even though this is going to be a summer like no other for most families, it is summer. I don't think that's going to be canceled, although a lot of vacations are going to be canceled. So you have some great ideas of summer-themed books that we can read with our tweens and our teens. What's the first book we're going to be looking at?
Yeah, I thought we'd do some summer trips, and some of our trips, my own included, had to be canceled. Maybe we can, travel vicariously through some characters and so forth. So the first one is called Grayson Gray Camp Legend.
Grayson Gray Camp Legend.
Yeah, and it's by B.C. Tweed, which is Tweedt. There's several stories in this. It's a series of books, so there's several books. And this is obviously, he's at a camp. Grayson Gray is the main character, and he's at a summer camp. And this whole series kind of has a secret agent feel to it, even though he's a middle school boy. But so it's a clean middle school adventures are what the books are about. So he's a boy who's spending summer at camp, as I said, and he comes across some interesting characters. They have some great supporting characters with some really funny lines and so forth. And they come across some bad guys with an evil plan, and they decide no one really believes them, so they have to figure out a way to thwart this evil mission. And I just loved the haphazard way in which these middle school kids had to deal with this threat and, work around the camp counselors and so forth, and somehow ended up saving the day. It was just such an enjoyable story. And I thought the author brilliantly captured the dialogue and the friendly jabs of middle school boys. It reminded me a lot of when my kids were in middle school and the things they'd, pester each other with and stuff. So it was a really fun story.
That sounds like fun. And yeah, those kind of mysteries and trying to thwart the evil guy, those are a lot of fun to read as a kid and as an adult too.
Yeah, I always enjoy those. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I just love mysteries, but also if there's anything kind of fun with it, dialogue or, goofy things happening, it just makes it so much more enjoyable for me.
Yeah. Isn't it fun that so many of those mystery books, they have so much humor sprinkled in. It really keeps the reading kind of going and keeps it enjoyable.
Yeah, it's just another fun little element to them.
Yeah. All right. So Grayson Gray, a neat character to introduce our kids to this summer. What else do we have?
Okay, the second one is actually one of my stories. It's called Unlikely Witnesses. And it's a shorter story. It's a novella. And it actually combines characters from two of my full-length novels, The Perfect Blind Side, which you mentioned, and An Unexpected Role. Now, two of these characters are actually related. So this story brings two characters from each of the books together, two couples, and they have a summer vacation together in the Colorado Rockies with their families. And, they're expecting a week of hiking, rafting, fishing, but somehow they get involved in kind of a mystery and end up being investigated by the FBI.
Ooh.
So this is a really fun, adventurous mystery, and it's told through each of the characters' unique perspective, plus the FBI agent as well. And it kind of touches on the idea that we can all be a witness to Christ to those who we meet throughout our lives. So, like I said, it's very fun and easygoing and set in the mountains in the summer. So it's another fun story that's rather shorter this time. So it's not a full-length novel. So perfect for summer.
I imagine we see a lot of the Rockies that we don't normally think about. You know, maybe some secret spots that we might want to check out if we ever get out there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I grew up in Colorado, so the summertime in the Rocky Mountains are always my favorite, and doing all those fun things like the fishing and little places, the rafting and so forth. So I get to touch on those in this book.
I'm curious, what inspired this story and the involvement of the FBI?
That's a good question. So when long ago I decided the two of these characters would be related, and I didn't really know what I would do with that fact. They were in different books, and then I just thought it would be a fun way to have another adventure with all these characters. And I actually made a few short stories, and it just kind of came together. I thought, where could they go on vacation? And since some of them lived in Colorado, and it's my home state, I always get to show my favorite parts.
Yeah, neat. As an author, I imagine you develop a relationship with some of your characters, and like you said, you want to bring them back. You want to spend more time with them.
Yes, and this actually came up when I was starting to write the sequel to The Perfect Blind Side, and I was having a little bit of trouble getting into the mindset of the characters again, trying to remember who they were, and so I started with this short story, and that did the trick. It was so much fun reconnecting suddenly with them and doing it in an easier way than the full-length novels. You could just have a fun, enjoyable little story without all the complexities of character arcs and so forth.
Yeah, I imagine that this would be a great, quick read that a family can sit down and knock out in a day and kind of talk about over a picnic lunch.
Oh, that'd be a great idea.
Yeah,
I do really enjoy novellas and short stories sometimes, because sometimes we don't have the time or the energy for a full-length novel. So there's some wonderful shorter ones out there that really give you a little taste of a story, but you don't have the full commitment.
You just bring up something. My daughter and I were talking about this the other day. Very often we love to find a series on Netflix and just binge. And if we have the time, if it's a weekend day, we're not busy, we can sit down and watch 4 or 5 episodes of the same series in an afternoon, one right after another. But the idea of sitting down and watching a 2.5-hour movie, it just turns us off completely. It's the same amount of time we're investing. And so I just wonder what that is, if it's our attention span, or we like, being able to have a 5 beginning and endings instead of just one long extended experience.
That's so true. We've been doing that too, and you're right. Like, the whole movie is such a big, long commitment. And I guess the shorter ones, you think, well, I can just watch this, and I don't have to pay as much attention. Maybe I can, leave in the middle and come back or something. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's just we've had too much time we need at home lately.
Well, that certainly is true. So, what's the third book we're going to be talking about today?
The third one is called 3 Things to Forget.
3 Things to Forget.
And it's by Cynthia T. Toney. They probably talked about her before. She's a great author. This is the final book in her Bird Face series, but you wouldn't need to read the whole series to enjoy this one. And this one is set in Alaska. The main character, Wendy, is on vacation there for the summer. So you get some really neat scenes of some of the beautiful parts of Alaska. So that's kind of cool. And the whole series follows the main character, Wendy, through middle school and into high school. But this character is so great. She has issues in life and problems like anyone, but she just has exuberance and determination and kindness, the way she handles them. I really think she's a wonderful main character. So many times you kind of get the snarky teen, which can be fun, but this, shows a strong female character who's just a kind person. So I really liked her. And this author always does a great job of bringing up some interesting topics, which work fabulous for families and discussions. So this book actually has a bit of a mystery, but it also deals with the topics of Alzheimer's, the deaf community, and speaking the sign language, blended families, and even animal rescue organizations.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, she blends a lot together, but it flows really nicely. She does a really good job.
Wow, that sounds like a treasure trove of conversation there. You have the beauty of Alaska, which I hear is absolutely amazing. I have a cousin who travels up there every year, and I love seeing her pictures, and it looks like a place that I would love to visit. So many of us don't have a chance to visit it. And then all those really challenging topics to talk about. Alzheimer's, that's something that is affecting so many teens and so many families.
Yeah, it really is. And it's something you don't really see a whole lot, discussed in books. But it is something that so many families have had to deal with. So it's, again, a nice way to see how they handle it in the book and share ideas on how to, if you have it in your own family, how to deal with it.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. It is something that so many families are going through. So even if your family is not going through it directly, if you don't have a grandparent or a close aunt going through it, somebody in your community, in your church, at your school that is dealing with this. So I think it's just one of those topics that's important to talk about, whether you're in the middle of it or not, because it's so important to have an understanding of it and also empathy for folks who are going through it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. The empathy part is, you're right. If a teen isn't affected by it, they might not understand if a friend is going through it with their grandparent or whoever. And so it's a nice way to understand a bit more about it and understand what they're going through.
Yeah. So many great suggestions. I love this, and I'm really happy that you talked about your own novella, Unlikely Witness. If folks want to find out more about you and about all of your books, where can they go?
Right, they can go to my website, and it's lesliewahl.com, and I have all my reviews of all these books on there, plus a lot of information and links to my own books.
Now, we need to make sure everybody understands that Lesley is fancy, so she spells Lesley. So why don't you give folks the spelling of your name to make sure they get that in there right?
Thank you. Yeah, my mother wanted to spell it differently, which I love, but yeah, it makes it a little harder to find sometimes. So it's LESLEAWAHL.
We've had such a great time talking about some great books that we will want to read with our tweens and our teens this summer, all based on summer vacations. When we've been talking about that with our friend Leslea Wahl. Lesley, thanks so much for being back with us.
Thanks so much. Happy summer.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Cameron Wells. Cameron is an author and a spoken word artist. She's been on this show before. We're inviting her back so she can share with us some of the ways that she feels that we can work together as a community, as families, work with our kids to help us build a world that is more equitable and just for all people. To build a world that is great for everyone, every single human being. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Speaking of podcasts, if you are looking for something fun to do with your kids, may we suggest you check out Solve It for Kids. Solve It for Kids is a podcast being produced by myself and our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson, talking with scientists, aquanauts, astronauts, oceanographers, artists, about how they solve problems in their field using creativity, cooperation, and critical thinking. It's a really wonderful show. I've learned so very, very much, and I think you and your kids will love it too. Solve It for Kids. You can find it at our website, solveitforkids.com. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Leslea Wahl. Please be sure to check out her website. Also want to thank my incredible team, starting with my producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support that she gives me. I want to thank my head of security, Augie the doggy, always having my back here in the studio. But most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.